Heyo, library patrons. This is Library Dan, looking forward to present another wonderful episode of Book of Hours. Let's get into it. Now, where we last left off, we were just entering into Hush House, observing its magnitude, the work that we have yet to do. Inside of this building in front of the house, we have a description. Keeper's Lodge. For 500 years, in the time we call baronial, curia nocturnal, there was always a keeper to watch the ways, weed the gardens, mend the roof when the sun was shining. There is no keeper now, but the lodge's roof still weathers the storms of Brenkrug Bay. And this particular room has a aspect of baronial period. In the 16th century, the De Wolf family became the Barons Brenkrug, governing the Isle as their personal estate until 1759, when their line ended in madness and death. Very Lovecraftian. So we'll get to know more about the Barons de Wolf soon enough. Now, inside of this room, we have a variety of things that we can look at. There is a honey scar scented candle, a candle crafted from honey scar jasmine. Oh, delightful. It has aspects of forge and rose. It's a thing. It's also a candle. They generally burn brighter, but we generally burn longer. And it is a source of light. So we can see, so we can celebrate. There's also a plant in a pot, with the aspect of flower, the hair of a plant. Interesting. Called shadowless silk, a variant of the Persian silk tree, golden as the shadowless kings. There is a shaving mirror, snip snip, with aspects of lantern and moth, and it's a form of wall art. You could describe the whole house as a book, although it would be troublesome to index. There's a packet of tea, C&H, Second Flush Assam. Tea from the land of the real unicorn, imported by Cater and Hero. And this has aspects of leaf, the hands of a plant. If the flower is the hair, the leaves are the hands, I guess. And it is brewable, ready to be steeped or warmed or transformed. And this can be done at a fireplace. Oh, good thing we happen to have one of those. There is some pilas oat bread, gritty bread made from the hearty ancient oats that grows on Land's End. This is a form of sustenance. The bad life, the bad live that they may eat and drink, the good eat and drink that they may live. So says Socrates. It is a first course, generally eaten as a light snack or before a main course. It is bread. The grains suffer so, that they may enter into us and be one with us. It is a cooking ingredient. This will be part of something greater. Now, I have the DLC House of Light, which caused us to be able to make a wide variety of foods. So, at some point, I'll be doing some cooking. It sits on top a serving table, plates, cups, and glasses, so that if I want to offer someone wine, I don't need to give them the whole bottle. I can place something here with the aspect to serve, and use it to break it up into smaller pieces, essentially. For example, over here I have a bottle of dandelion wine, homemade flower wine. This is intoxicating. Quick, bring me a beaker of wine, so that I may wet my mind and say something clever. Aristophanes. So if I wanted to, I could take this bottle, place it here, and pour it out. The bottle will return to where it came from on a shelf, and I'll have myself a glass of dandelion wine to use whenever I wish. Let's see. We also have a basket of clean linen, a nighttime luxury. This thing is a woven thing, which means I can take it to a workbench and render it into rags. It's also a restorative, just like the dandelion wine, the bread. All these things can help me recover if I so choose. I'll get to that soon enough. We have a fractured mirror, cracked and fly-specked, with knock and lantern. Knock probably because it's fractured, and knock has to do with the concept of openings, particularly wounds. Lantern because it's bright. We also have a potted dragon tree, a determined, spiky little survivor. And because it's such a rough thing, it has the aspect of scale. Now this is what we really should be looking for. The Hush House Key. Heavy enough that it takes both hands to turn. Heavy enough to brain someone, though you need both hands for that, too. Obviously, it has aspects of knock and winter. And it is a key. That part of the soul called Shapt is left outside the white door of the Mansus, as a key in the door, or as a sword outside a king's hall, if you listen to the Noble Endeavor. Interesting. We'll learn more about the Mansus later, I imagine, and its white door. So let's take the key and put it to use. We're at the great gate of the house. The walls of the house tower above me. I had been told that it was abandoned after a fire, but there is no sign of any such thing. The building will no doubt need a restoration, but it's in better shape than I feared. Books are the memory that does not die, reads the inscription above the gate. Let's unlock it. And while we're doing that, let's also look at some of these uncatalogued books. This one is blue, and that indicates that it's from the Curia period. That means that different periods have different risks involved with them, that they might have some sort of malady involved in the book. So, Curia, though, is a fairly safe time, if I remember correctly, so let's use our FET to discover what's inside there. And while we're doing that, I will also recover my health. This is the book that was uncatalogued and we now have access to. Kittling Ripe and the Moldy Warp's Grave, and other stories. Interesting. A lusciously illustrated tome of loosely connected children's stories. Few of them are remotely suitable for children. This thing has a tally price implying the value that this book would have if we were to sell it. God forbid. We're a library. We also see that it has a mystery of moth that requires 6. Our FET has a moth of 2, and maybe we could find some sort of memory that would give us Moth, but that seems a little too difficult for us right now. Were we to read this and learn lessons from it, we would gain the subject resurgences and emergences. Birth and death are only directions. Between the two we find a crossroads. This book came from the Curia period, as we have already learned. In the 18th century, a secretive cabal of scholars established the Curia of the Isle to manage Hush House, making it a haven of knowledge until 1896, when a disgraced librarian brought the house to penury. I believe that means that it became impoverished, didn't have money to run anymore. I wonder who this disgraced librarian is. Now, let's place this book back on its shelf and find another one. Snare of the Tree. Collected Proverbs of Aunt Mopsy. Once in the wood we call a visit. Twice in the wood we call a journey. Thrice we call coming home. 3 must be an important number to Aunt Mopsy. We see this has a mystery of Grail that requires 8. That's going to be quite some time before we get access to that. And learning it would give us skills in Applebright Euphonies. Breath is the temptation of the soul. Pleasures and insights that the church would call the secrets, the sister of the mysteries, the sisterhood, the mysteries, and the bureau unsanctioned. We'll place that here as well. I see our health has recovered. That's good. And we've unlocked this room. Let's see what's inside. The Watchman's Tower, Gatehouse. Back in the 11th century, Brian of Brittany built the tower and its gate to protect St. Brandon's Abbey, as Hush House was then known. Later, the Barons de Wolf strengthened the gate against their many enemies, but it's long time now since Hush House was any kind of fortress. And by the time the scholars of the Curia took possession, this place had long been a comfortable waiting room for visitors to the house, too minor to merit immediate attention. Inside of it, we find a painting named Raveline Summer, a dry spell in a still place. A vase of gorse, as Cornish a plant as any. A painting named The Tattered Outlaw. Thurza Blake, 7th librarian of Hush House, liked painting donkeys. No one else liked her donkey paintings, but Thurza never much cared what other people liked. Way to be, Thurza. We also have a, what is it you call it when it's just a headpiece? A bust of Serena Blackwood. This bust is carved from alabaster. Well, if I read it, I would actually know. Well, this is interesting. We have Yeth-hound horns. In times past, the Yeth pursued the impious and the impure across the moors of this country. Hendrik de Wolf never liked them. Wonder what a Yeth is. Fascinating. It also has a new aspect for us. Carcass. Something that once moved without my assistance. I can take this to a necropsy table to render it into animal bones. Well, maybe I'll do that someday, once I find such a table. Now I think we'll go for this room next to unlock. It says, Gatehouse Stairs. The stairs to the room above are blocked with debris and the plaster is peeling from the walls. I will need help from the village to clear and restore the place. Now it requires forge or lantern, and sadly, neither Mr. or Mrs. Kill have those aspects, although I could give forge to one of them, using this memory. How about we do that? I'll speak to Mr. Kill for a moment, if that's all right. Now, once we talk to Mr. Kill, we can talk about this memory of foresight I have. This will give him the aspects the memory has, so he'll gain 2 aspects of forge and 1 aspect of lantern. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. Very good. And now I shall put him to work in the gatehouse stairs. And while he's working on that, actually, I think I'll actually ask him for some more help in something else. I have to wait till I've actually put him to work before I can ask him for help again. That makes good sense. While he's working, I shall do some more reading, I suppose. And while I'm reading, I think I will also set up myself in this guest bed. I'll make this my lodgings for the time being. By resting here, by claiming this bed as my personal bed, I can use it to recover my elements of the soul in the same way that I did when I would go to the inn. It takes a little bit longer, but it doesn't require any money to do so, which I'm slowly beginning to run out of. As we can see, night is coming, but because it hasn't quite reached nighttime, we can still talk with Mr. Coffin Maker, Mr. Kill, and give him a new aspect. This time I'm going to give him the aspect of Nectar, so that he can help us open this. The Cloistered Garden. We have a new book, Stolen Histories. The agitator and pamphleteer Alexander Sparrow inveighs against the monstrous spirits, serpents, thieves of history. Well, well. This would give us access to Coil and Chasm, Worms, 7 Coils, Dangerous Places, How Earthquakes are Bound and Why They Are Released. Now, only requiring 4 scale, that feels much more achievable than some of the other books we've looked at. My health has a scale of 1. If I could find a little bit of scale from something else, maybe I could do that. Now, as for these last 2 books, they've already been cataloged for us. In fact, I think they're cataloged at the beginning of every game. The first one is Traveling at Night, Volume 1. The Annotated Dream Journals of Christopher Illopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist. Literate, entertaining, bewildering. This would give us the Edicts Liminal, the precepts of limitation and division, established by the enigmatic conclave of ours, sometimes called the Chancel. Alright, so there's a group of ours called the Chancel. Wonder what they do. Well, set limits, I suppose. The Annotated Dream Journals of Christopher Illopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist. But this is Volume 2, and would give us access to Sights and Sensations, to mix the rarest colors A merciful detachment is required. Merciless detachment. Apologies. Alright, and this is during the Nocturnal period. By the beginning of the 20th century, an unwise librarian's enthusiasms had brought Hush House to penury. Now this was occurring at the period just before this, the Curia period, at the end of that. Later, the Suppression Bureau stepped in to offer an arrangement. Hush House received funding, but submitted to yearly inspections, and also surrendered a portion of the Isle for the Branches prison. Well, with a Mystery of Sky at 6, we do have a skill that gives us Sky, but not nearly enough yet. We'll have to work on that. Seems at this moment we have this Memory of Revelation, but most likely won't be able to use it, at least not anytime soon. Mr. Kill is now ready to help us with the Cloistered Garden as soon as he is finished with this room above. The Cloistered Garden. I can make out a green and shaded space. But it's choked with weeds and thorns. I'll need help to clear the space. We have just such a man. Now, even though it's past nighttime, and not a time that we can actually speak to him anymore, if we were to try to do so, due to the unsociability of the hour, we can still put him to work, apparently. This librarian that I am I guess I'm quite a slave driver. But I am quite appreciative, of course. Let's see this new room that we've unlocked. Watchman's Tower, first floor. The notorious Eva de Wolf, first and last Baroness Bran Krug, liked this room. Because this side of the house carried fewest memories of her poor father Valentine, so she could eavesdrop on the conversations of visitors waiting below, or just because of how the pale light slanted through the windows in the last days of winter. Here we have a bust carved from serpentinite, a striking local stone named Walter de Wolf. We also have a mirror scope, bewildering and occasionally useful. It has an aspect of lantern, and it is a tool. One reason the apes beat the Beatles. Fair enough, because they could use tools. We also have another tool with the aspect of sky, Baron Silence's astrolabe. Thomas de Wolf used this armillary, a spherical astrolabe, in his calculations, but it's much older than he was. We also have some books here to catalog. Very good. And we have some Ugol ink, a variant of the Iron Gall ink, particularly difficult to erase. A minor ink of power. Well, that's an ink if it scrawls and mix it, and a liquid. What seeks the depths, flees the heights, and cannot be constrained by any chain ever forged. I guess that would be a liquid, wouldn't it? We might be able to put this ink to use. You see, we have this letter to the librarian, a letter to me from St. Rowan's Trust. The Trust's connection with Hush House is probably benevolent, but persistently obscure. I imagine they would like me to write them back, let them know that I've finally set up my space. But, like any good work, that's going to require me to have access to my elements yet again. Alright, I've finished camping in the lodge, so I may use this bed later on to restore my attributes, my elements of soul. This is a safe place for me now, to the extent that dreams are safe. I imagine in a world like Book of Hours, yes. Hush House, Book of Hours. Dreams can be quite a dangerous thing. All right. My aspects, my elements of soul have been refreshed. Sadly, my revelation has left me behind. Fleeting reminiscence, a moment in time, in another moment it'll be gone. Because if unused, the memories will disappear with the dawn. Well, that makes sense. Now, to my task. A message for me. And then I add an ink to reply to it. And then I add a soul card to use it. Now I need to use a soul card that has one of these 4 aspects to use this particular writing desk. And luckily, Trist has the aspect of moon, so we can use that here. The other ones I think are actually free to be whatever they wish to be, because this one doesn't have any of those aspects. I will write an enigmatic reply to St. Rowan's Trust. The sea remains. The house remains. What else remains? We shall learn in time. I am something new, and in time I will learn what that means. Ooh. Good, I've got weather, and it is sunny. The sun is not what it was, but today he is smiling. Let's see. I think I'll speak to my good friend, Mr. Kill again, and begin expanding once more. I finished writing, and I've gained a memory because of it. A memory of intuition. You just know, you know? With moon and rose. Not sure if I can put that to use just yet, but perhaps. Perhaps. Now I've gained Mr. Kill's attention. I should replenish my list, I believe. And, of course, I must speak to the postmistress to send out my reply. Patience. Thus the mountain awaits the fall of the snow. Thus Monday awaits the death of the weekend. Thus the postmistress waits for me to purchase the necessary stamp. A king-marked stamp. Stamp, envelope, send. Very well. The postmistress examines the letter and deems it sufficient. It'll go with the next post, she assures me. In the post, now I can expect visitors, correspondence, and a stipend from the trust every spring. Very good. Now, while I'm waiting for all this to happen, perhaps I'll have a little chat with Mr. Kill. Now, I can use Collaborate to gain more aspects for Mr. Kill, or I could just leave it empty and have a little chat with him. Find out what he's thinking about. We have have cataloged the Flayed Tantra. This Tantra is recorded as being spoken by an enigmatic individual identified as Peel, with many of the qualities of mythological Naga. The Flayed Tantra played as a notable part in Alexander Sparrow's paranoid pamphleteering. It's written in Sanskrit, the holy tongue of the subcontinent, the door to 4,000 years of poetry, ceremony, and mystery now opens before you, if you can struggle through the lotus convolutions of its vocabulary. Luckily enough, I do speak Sanskrit, but I mustn't assume, others can as well. I can learn to about the Magfene mysteries. The greater plagues may not be cured, only bound. The very greatest of all may only be entreated, and it is death to do so improperly. Well, well. This is a scroll, a book with a very long page. That's one way to describe a scroll, I suppose. Let's place it here for now. Of another book I finished cataloging, Code Acephali, something called the Book of the Clean Skull. The book contains accounts of enlightenments available through gradual surgical removal of the lobes of the brain. Oh my. It will teach me of snow stories, of wind, woe, and winter. And it seems to be written in Latin. Well, well. Now I don't have any elements that have the correct aspect for this, so instead I'm going to just leave it here and use it later, I suppose. My friend has given me a memory of impulse. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't exactly make sense. But I understand it anyway. Just get a impulse of it, I suppose. Not quite what I was looking for, so I'll talk to him again. We've also found this new book, The Rose of Wazne. The heretical teachings of a disgraced offshoot of the Sisterhood of the Knot, that arcane contemplative order that existed in all histories. All histories? What an interesting phrase. This was recorded by Wazne and dedicated to Saint Respicius. And if I were to read it, I would learn about auroral contemplations, to know what will pass in what has passed. The practitioners of this discipline see endings and beginnings, passages and transitions, in the same mode as dawn and sunset. Perhaps we'll find out more. My whist has returned, and I shall refresh another one. He has given me some foresight now. Also interesting. Also, not necessarily what I need. What I was looking for was some winter, or perhaps some sky, that I would be able to use to access one of these two rooms. So, I will instead give him some winter by using my whist element. And now his 4 is greater than the 3 we require, and we may look into the Long Tower, first floor. The Long Tower looks like it has been abandoned much longer than 7 years. In the nocturnal period, the inhabitants probably spent most of their time on the seaward side of the isle. I'll need help to restore the room above. All right. And then I shall seek the assistance of my good friend Mr. Kill one more time. Now this time I notice he has the aspect of one sky, but if I were to give him access to this astrolabe, a sky tool, it would put him at 2, which is just enough to do what we need it to do. Four winter required for this tower. Long Tower, 2nd floor. Freezing air, even tendrils of fog, drift from the tower top. I should probably seek help from someone who knows the local traditions for dealing with restless spirits. Quite. And here, the Watchman's Tower, top floor. The ceiling bows worryingly under the damp patch. There must be a leak in the observatory. The sun above knows what state it's in. I should seek help and enter carefully. The day is drawing to the close, so I should be wise about how I choose to do this. I think I will speak to Mr. Kill one last time. And while I do so, maybe I'll find a little bit of work to get some of my money back. Using the hard aspect, there's not much work on offer in Bren Krug, but I can find 6 worth of odd jobs. That sounds good. 6 is better than none. Now that I have him back. I do have 2 rows from this. I think I made a mistake. I shouldn't have looked for work. I should have given them my fete, and then I could use that to gain the rows I need to enter this room. Is there any other way I can do it? Rose is not a particularly easy aspect to get, at least at the beginning of this. I can't just give him a candle, sadly, although that would make my life a lot easier. Here, I think this is what I will do. I'll talk to Mr. Kill and give him a conversation about the weather. Talk about the weather, more useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. Now, that he has the aspect of light, of lantern, I can use him as an introduction, to have tea with the rector. A mutual acquaintance has induced Reverend Timothy the rector to invite me for tea. There may even be crumpets. And with that I gain a little bit of gossip. Delightful. Now you might think to yourself, well, you have 2 sources of Rose now, Dan. Wouldn't you be able to use that to access this location? Well, sadly, we can only use 1 memory and 1 of each category of items that gives aspect to be able to open up these buildings to give to our assistants to make them more useful? So sadly, the answer is no. Now, however, I do have one option that I have left available to me. You see, I have all of these memories and they're all going to fade away, which is a horrible thing, truly. Unless I can place them into my bed for a little bit of dreaming. You see, it has to match one of these aspects up here, these elements of soul, and I think memory, of foresight will. So, if I dream on a memory, night has not yet fallen, but once it has, I can rest, and perhaps dream on the day's doings. So I won't use it now, until night has come. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doing. And that will preserve it through the night. And I've received my 6 pence. Very good. I see I have a number of books here that I can catalog. That's quite exciting. Let's look inside the buildings that I've opened up. And after that, I think now might be a good time to take a small break. Watchman's Tower Observatory. Thomas de Wolf, 2nd Baron of Brankrug, who they called the Baron Silence, built the observatory in 1576, by happy coincidence, just in time to observe the passage of the Great Comet in 1577. We also see Kitty's armchair. This looks very like the armchair in which Kitty Mazarine, 2nd librarian, sat for El Breton's famous group portrait. Well. Sitting on a table stand, we find mist-kissed water. The faintest of vapors still ghosts the water's surface. It has a number of very useful aspects. Perhaps sometime I'll give it to a person to help me out. That would be quite nice. Long Tower, Solomon's Study. In 1818, the very Reverend Solomon Husher became 3rd librarian of the Curia of the Isle. He took rooms in the Long Tower as his quarters. Husher's tastes were Spartan. Although the Curia generally liked a little more luxury, no one ever quite dared to redecorate the place after his disappearance. On the desk we have Whispering Sand, white silver sand in which the voice of the wave lingers. This is a material, something with the potential to become something, if I put it in something. It's also a glass, lucent and fragile. Even sand may someday be the eye of a rock. The eye of rock. On top of it we see Naveen parchment, pale as the first wisp of mountain cloud, with aspect of winter, it seems. We also find a very potent ink, perniculate, deadly. Use gloves to read text produced with this pigment, an ink of power, sometimes considered an unsanctioned ink. With this kind of tool, with this kind of ink, we might be able to do something. We also find a widow's candle, light it in remembrance. And a chalice candle, a candle scented with a fragrant chalice, full of grail. We find a bust of Solomon Husher. Well, it's quite a grotesque-looking bust. This bust is the palest white marble, we read. And finally, St. Brandon's Cloister. The sisters and brothers of the abbey built these gardens in the 13th century, at the height of the period we call Solar Gothic. Walk here for a while and breathe the peace they left. In this cloister we find a garden, sea holly in summer, blue crown in winter. I suppose with a little bit of effort and knowledge, we'll be able to grow some flowers. And with that, dear readers, I think I'll call this session to an end. Until next time.